What's happening, y'all? JR Raymond back again, coming to you from home. And I want to talk a little bit about lane play. We're going to look at some short pattern play and some long pattern play. We're going to use a few of the PBA videos to do this. Hopefully, they don't give me copyright strike for it, but we're kind of just sharing a video on screen. So we're going to talk about a little bit about bowling balls to be used, the shapes we're trying to create, those types of things on long patterns versus short patterns. We're going to do all that here in a minute, so stay tuned. All right, so let's take a look here. We've got Pete and Bill O'Neill coming up on a short pattern. Let me try and find that real quick. Where's it at? Hold on a second. Let me get to it. Minimize some screens here so I can at least get to it. Where's it at? There it is. I think I found it. There it is. All right, here we go. So let's kind of, I'm going to turn this down a little bit so we don't need to hear them talking too much. Let's watch Bill. He's using, so this is an older show. And the reason I'm using this older show as an example is because this is before they started using urethane on these patterns a lot. Before a lot of the new urethane technology came into play, they used a lot of lower differential type bowling balls and generally some more surface on bowling balls to create a slower transition. So you watch balls that kind of arc a little bit rather than see them get down lane, get to the dry, and then make a really quick response. They're using bowling balls that are lower response bowling balls, lower friction bowling balls, but they're adding friction to them to make them smoother, if that makes sense. So if we watch Bill here, this is an Arson low flare from back in the day. You see how smooth and round that is? Now, that to me still looks a little too quick. I'd want to bring that closer to me. So I'd be using a little bit more surface and probably playing a little bit further right in this type of situation. But again, these guys had X amount of time to actually break the pattern down and do it however they want to see the pattern. So maybe they broke them down to the right a little bit more. I don't know why you would on the Wolf, but you never know what these guys are doing. So we saw Bill using a lower flaring, lower differential bowling ball there. He'll get back up here and throw another shot so we can get another example. This is the slow motion of that.
He's a great athlete. He's in the gym. You can see that high backswing there. This is a great position to be in with this leg knee, the knee bend there, and that open shoulder at the foul line. Now watch the head pin come across and just look like it was shot out of a cannon right into the 10 pin.
All right, so now we get to see another shot from him, and then we'll get to see Pete. Bill's really good at controlling his ball motion, controlling his ball roll. He can be really far up the back. You see that? That's what I'm talking about, when I mean too quick. That's why I would want more surface on that ball. More surface doesn't necessarily mean it's going to make it hook more. More surface or a lower grit surface on a bowling ball is going to make it hook earlier. Not necessarily more. It's just going to be earlier. And the earlier you make that start using up its energy, the more rounded shape you're going to see rather than store, get to the back of the pattern and go. Because even with some of these low diff balls, even though they're meant to flare less and be the smoother, more rounded type bowling balls, if you keep the surface at a point where it's just going to skid all the way through the lane and hydroplane on the oil until it hits friction, it's going to then use all its energy at one point. We want it to use up energy throughout the lane. You want it to see it in phases throughout the lane where the ball and the core start to transition slowly around that corner. So let's take a look. Let's move a little forward here and get to Pete. Pete is, I think this was an IQ tour, one of the original IQ tours back then. That's what it looks like.
So many of his big moments.
Another low flaring, low differential bowling ball. See, now that looks really, really good when it comes to how it went through the pins. Still, again, it seems to be a little quick. You watch how much that ball was still curving at the back part of the lane. It wasn't rolling forward. That can cause problems. And if you would have watched the second frame in this, here, I'll give you that example. I'll back it up so you guys can see Pete's second frame here. He threw it in the gutter because this ball is forcing his angles to be so open that he has to throw it towards the gutter. And then when he throws his second shot here, see how quick that thing picks up and just kind of boomerangs and goes left? That's not reading fast enough. I know that looks like it's too strong down lane and you'd want to be using a weaker ball to slow it down. That's why a lot of people use urethane in today's world, is because those urethane balls hook a lot closer to you and they smooth the transition of the bowling ball out throughout the entire lane. They don't store energy for the back and boomerang like that to get 6. So keep that in mind on this pattern. So now we'll watch his next shot here. See, that's not a bad looking shape, but again, he's using his angles, and it's a little bit more difficult for Pete because Pete's axis rotation is so high in most cases. His hand really wraps around the ball, so he's probably using a short pin type layout on this ball, something closer to his axis to get it to kind of lay down a little bit and slow down with the core, get the core to kind of slow it down. But either way, even that surface on the bowling ball probably isn't quite smooth enough. It's not, or not strong enough, not enough surface on it to get it to slow down enough. But the way he's playing them, these guys are so good. A lot of the time, me and my buddy Cody, he was just here for a week, and we were just talking. Like, so many guys, I'm included in that. I've done it for so long. So many of us, we get so good at just repeating shots and making shapes happen that even if we have somewhat bad ball reaction or not the best ball reaction, we can make it work. We can still be somewhat successful with bad ball reaction, or not bad ball reaction, but not optimal ball reaction. So like this, Pete's not using an optimal ball reaction. Now, a lot of y'all would look at this and say, I don't know, that looks pretty dang good. Yeah, but when you actually look at the progression throughout the lane, it's too late down lane. He's not getting that ball to smooth out. He would have no room to the left, and he may have room to the right to get to the pocket, but not to strike. So he's got himself in a situation where he's got to throw it really, really good in order to strike. So then when we get to EJ on the long pattern, EJ, I think this is the first show EJ made, was on this wolf pattern up here. It's when they had Terrell Owens on the show. Yeah, so now we'll see EJ using another low friction. This was the Primal Rage. This was the ball everybody raged about, literally, no pun intended, back then when Motive first made this ball. This was one of their most popular bowling balls, but it was a pretty clean, flippy type of bowling ball. This was the ball that was used on a long pattern. Jake Peters used this ball on the Badger and won on that with this ball. But look at how quick that is. You see how quick that ball stood up? That ball really, and it didn't stand up early. It waited till it got to the friction and went dead left. So again, he's going to try to play the steep angles, which even to this day he really likes to do. But even EJ, he's going to nowadays use something like a Venom Shock with surface, or his tanks, any of the tanks, to allow him to play straighter and smooth out the transition of that ball so it doesn't hit the dry and jerk left. It doesn't go crazy. So let's see if we can get his second shot here. See, those are the balls he had in his bag. A Venom Toxin and then his tank, original tank. I'm very surprised he's not using the tank here. But first show. Again, look at that. Look how sharp that angle comes off the pattern. You're in big trouble using angles like this when you're bowling on a short pattern. You want to smooth it out as much as possible. He's sitting there. Let's watch that one again. So you watch this shot. Just watch how sharp it comes off. And sure, it looks pretty going through the pins, but again, it's not the optimal ball reaction. See, that's it looks like it's rolling through the pins there. So entry angle and everything was good, but you're not giving yourself enough of the lane to be able to create that type of entry angle. That's a tough one. It's tough to create that. Did Bill change balls? Bill changed balls going into this game, because that's not an Arson low flare now.
I promise you, this man here is comfortable.
It looks like a vibe.
4 titles.
Much better transitioning ball there. All right, let's talk about the long patterns now. So we can get rid of this one. Let's get back over here and we can share the long pattern video. So here, so what you saw there, again, so let's kind of recap a little bit. On that type of pattern, you saw a lot of guys trying to get the ball much further right, further away from the pattern, so to give the ball more time to react, because you're on a short pattern. You've got a lot more friction, a lot more surface of the lane that is drier, so you've got to be able to get it further right, further away from the pins. When you watch this show, which this is on the shark pattern, which is a longer 47 or 49 foot pattern. I think it was 47
he
this
always
year.
seems like he's just so chill. He's going with blue.
You're going to watch guys like Santu here. See how much farther left and not as far right that ball got. Hold on a second here. Let me see if when they do the replay, I can show you where it's actually getting to. On that other pattern, they were trying to get the ball to like 2-3 down lane. Here, they're going to be getting it closer between that 9, 10, 11, 12 range, somewhere there. So it's quite a bit, almost 2 zones further left, just because it's a longer pattern. And what they're doing is they're trying to get their ball to read in the middle, and you're still kind of looking for that same type of transition shape, but you're doing it much closer to the pocket. You're bringing everything closer to the pocket. So you have that miss room in there. So see what happens here if I can pause this somewhere. So you can see, right? See how it's not really getting? I mean, that's past the pattern already. And this ball is at, what, 12, 13? Hard to see, but it's pretty far left on here. And it comes in way late. So it actually ends up finding its way, it says, to 9.2. So like I said, between 9 and 12 is where they're going to try to get that ball. So, and these guys are using their high rev rate guys, 525 RPM, and you can see that little bit of shape. So it's getting to the back part of the lane, and then it's making a somewhat aggressive shape, but nothing crazy. They're using a little bit of surface to get the ball started because there's so much oil in the first 25 feet of the lane. You've got to find a way to get that ball to start digging in a little bit to change directions. Otherwise, it's going to scoot all the way down lane, and then you're relying on some crazy reaction down lane to get it to go through the pins or get it back to the pocket. You don't want that. You want that smooth, rounded shape like you can see over here. Now let's watch Sam throw his shots. He's going to be doing something very similar.
Back to Sam, right lane.
See that? So that shows he got it to 8. It doesn't look like he got it to 8, but that shows he got it to 8. Pretty, not very steep angle, pretty tight line. And again, another rounded shape. Getting it to read the middle of the lane and float just a little bit. Not doing anything crazy. Let's get the second shot in here now. See? Now that one, yeah, that's wrong. There's no way. That was way left of his last one. And this says that it got to 7.5. It did not. You clearly, or his original break point. Okay, so that was 7.5. His ideal break point. Okay, I think I stopped it too quick. Yeah, it actually was 10.9. It got to 11 almost. So yeah, so you can see how much further left. But because of the volume they're bowling on, the longer pattern, it's closer to the pocket. You've got miss room here. Now, if this ball gets to 7, 6.5, he's hitting the 3-pin in the face. He's missing the head pin. That's what's crazy about some of these long patterns. So that's why you're not trying to throw it as far to the right over there as what you would on some of the shorter patterns. So you kind of want to pay attention to this stuff. Let's see what Simo does. Simo might try to attack him different because he's a freak of nature. He might try to go a little straighter. I don't remember this show. I think maybe he does. I think he tries to play like right up that 9, 10, 11 range. I'm pretty sure. Nope, he's in. He's way in. And even that, see, he got that to 10, and it barely made its way back. He might be a little too deep, or he needs a little bit more surface. The problem with a little bit more surface is then you have the chance of it hooking too early. Me, if I'm him in that situation, I'm trying to roll it forward just a little bit more to get it to read a little bit quicker. That's it. Or slowing down just a pinch. That's all. They're just minor adjustments that these guys tend to make in these areas. So we'll watch him over here on the left lane now.
He would like at least several more spins.
Very left. Just kind of shoving it in there. Getting it to that 11 board down lane. Nothing, again, not trying to give it away too much. So here on both of these patterns, generally, you're going to be using lower surface bowling balls, surfaces that are lower grits to get them to start up a little bit and pick up the lane. A lot of the times on these volumes and stuff you see these guys bowling on, they're using higher volumes. They're in the 30s, and then they're using a viscosity of oil that is ridiculous. They're like, you're bowling in soup, man. It's like you're throwing your ball through mud, man. It's crazy how slick the lanes can be. So keep these things in mind. It's very difficult to try to know what to do in most situations with these types of lane patterns. If you're bowling on tough patterns, try to take into consideration the length a little bit, the length and the volume. If you're bowling on something that's less than 37 feet, more than likely, again, I've bowled on some 34, 35 foot patterns where it requires you to play further left. But most cases, in general, you're going to be playing closer to the gutter. At least your break point is going to be closer to the gutter. How you get there is going to be determined on your style. But a lot of the times you're going to be playing closer to the gutter, and you're going to be using more surface to smooth out the reaction and not make it overreact in the dry. And then on the longer patterns, you're still going to be using the surface to get it to start up quicker because you're bowling in so much oil, but you're going to be moving everything closer to the pocket. So that way you have less time for the ball to get there because of the amount of oil you're bowling on. So I hope this helps. Make sure to comment below. Any questions or anything like that, comment below. Let me know what you've got. If you want to see if you got other recommendations of how you want to see people play the lanes and certain things or whatever you may have, leave them in the comments and I'll try to get to them. But that's all I got for you. Until next time, I'm out of here. We'll see you guys later.